Hey, what's going on, team? So I wanted to address one of the questions that came in as far as overcoming sugar cravings. Well, first we're going to do some good news and bad news as we talk about sugar. And I was giving a nutrition seminar, I think it was 7 or 8 years ago at the Methodist Hospital right up here up the road. And one of their behavioral psychologists and I got into a conversation, and she actually invited me into her office, and she showed me the brain scan. And by the way, this lecture was given to post-bariatric surgery patients. So they had just gone through bariatric surgery, and we were going in and coaching them on how to incorporate proper nutrition now that they've had the surgery. So anyway, so we went to her back office, and she showed me the brain scan of someone who had just done cocaine. And it was all lit up with dopamine everywhere. And then to the right of that, she showed me a second brain scan. And it looked very, very similar. Not as lit up, but very, very similar. And I'm like, well, what drug did they do? They had consumed large amounts of sugar. So the dopamine release that we get from large amounts of sugar tends to be equivalent to the dopamine release that someone would get from doing cocaine. So that's the bad news. Not looking good. The good news is, much like cocaine, and this isn't true in all cases, there's psychological things that come into place, but just like cocaine, it doesn't necessarily make it addictive because sugar tends to be out of our system rather quickly, and there are little to no documented physiological withdrawal symptoms. So for example, when you're a bona fide alcoholic, you can't go cold turkey in drinking. Or heroin addicts can't go cold turkey, or meth addicts, they can't go cold turkey because there's a physical dependency on that particular substrate. So luckily for us, they haven't linked that with sugar, but my gosh, it makes it pretty attractive when your brain lights up like dopamine the same way it would from a line of Coke. So let's go over 4 strategies of how we can kick our sugar cravings. First is more of a preventative. We see a lot of times in the past when I would overindulge in sugar, it was from low calorie eating and depleted glycogen stores. So it takes about, in the apparent healthy adult, depending on how active they are, it can take between 2 and 3 days to fully deplete glycogen stores. So your body's just doing what it's naturally designed to do, saying, hey, these fuel tanks are low, we need to fuel them up in the quickest way possible. Sugar tends to be the quickest way possible, or pure dextrose or sugar would be the quickest way possible to fuel those tanks back up. We're not keto or fat adapted, so yeah, the urge is there. Your body's just reacting like it normally should react to replenish glycogen stores. So the first thing that I would do if struggling with this is I would not go more than one. I wouldn't go low calorie, very low below plan on several days in a row, or even 1 or 2 days in a row, because that's the body's reaction it's going to have. It's going to want to replenish those glycogen stores. I would also time some of my carbohydrates around my activity. So if I'm very, very active, doing 2-a-day training or doing a bunch of cardio, I'd probably replenish those glycogen stores right after training, so that they're replenished and I don't get that craving 2 or 3 days down the road. Okay, so you want to avoid calorie cycling if you're struggling with cravings on sugar every 2 or 3 days. Second, similar to the first one, preventative, a lot of times your body will signal you to crave sugar. What it's really doing is it's signaling you to crave carbohydrates because it wants some of the micronutrients in those carbohydrates. So fruits, vegetables, of course, are all carbohydrates and are all very micronutrient dense. So our brain isn't that evolved. So it's just going to have you crave sugar because it knows that, all right, well, sugar is fruits, vegetables, I'll get the micronutrients I need. So in here, we want to delay, don't deny. So if you have a sugar craving, the first thing that I would do is I would eat a very micronutrient, or drink a very micronutrient dense shake. Wait 25, 30 minutes later and see if that sugar craving is still there. That will help identify, hey, maybe this is just a micronutrient deficiency that my brain was signaling, and it wasn't actually the sugar itself. So full glycogen stores, key, and then micronutrients. And again, delay, don't deny. So I would do the micronutrient dense shake or salad or whatnot first, and then I would wait 30 minutes and see if I still have that craving. Third, so say you do 1 and 2, and this is real, you're still having these sugar cravings. Well, I would look at, say you factor in the sugar. It's all factored into your plan, you do the right thing. How do you feel after the sugar? Do you feel bloated? Do you feel disappointed? Do you feel depressed? Journal that. That is huge. Why do you want to journal that? Because your brain is always going to avoid pain first and foremost. It's two things our brains do it. They avoid pain and chase pleasure. Those two things. But we can take advantage of the fact that we will avoid pain first before chasing pleasure. All right, so if it's between a donut and burning my hand, I'm gonna avoid burning my hand first over the donut, no matter how much I'm craving the donut. So we can capitalize on that. Now, because the brain avoids pain, we tend to forget traumatic incidences in our life. And I think we all know that, like people who were abused at very young ages, they block it out. They don't have any memory of it, or it's very deep in their subconscious. Well, it's the same thing. If we go on a sugar binge and we feel horrible, we feel bloated, we're beating ourselves up, we went way over our calories for the week, we kind of screwed the pooch, we're gonna forget that pretty quick. Our brain is not gonna wanna remember that circumstance, because why? Because it's painful. It brings up all these painful feelings. So when we journal it, we allow our brain not to forget that. So when the cue presents itself again, we pull out that journal and your brain will just go on autopilot at that point. It'll be like, no, I'm avoiding that pain. And actually, in a lot of cases, people will look at the sugar and be disgusted about it, especially the more you journal. You might need to journal 3 or 4 bad instances with that particular cue in order for your left brain to kind of kick in and have its defense mechanism. So journaling, absolutely huge, because you will forget. That's part of that defense mechanism. The brain will forget how you feel after succumbing to that cue. Lastly is your habit loop. So you want to look at, okay, what am I going to the sugar, or say in my case, alcohol, or whatever it would be? What am I going to this for? Well, we have the cue, sugar craving or alcohol. We have the routine, okay, go to the liquor cabinet or go to the cabinet where the Twix bars are. Then we have the reward. We want to look at, what is the reward? The reward isn't like a glass of bourbon. Bourbon doesn't really taste that good, or the reward isn't the Twix bar itself. The reward is the escape that we get from whatever it is, a long work day, stress. Typically it's going to be some form of stress that we're escaping from. So we don't want to change the cue and we don't want to change the reward. We just have to change the routine. So how else can I escape if I don't want to have a drink tonight? So I can escape by going for a walk, putting my phone down, putting all the stimulus down, and going for a walk with my wife. I can escape by going to the gym. I can escape by calling a friend. That's what Alcoholics Anonymous does. They substitute the routine of going to the bar with nightly meetings. And it works very, very well. And they also have a sponsor. So if you have that cue to say drink, they can have a sponsor that they can call on the spot and provide that escape. And generally what happens is they talk for 15 minutes and that's that. So very, very cool. So understanding your own habit loop and changing that routine. All right, so if the routine is, the cue is I'm craving sugar, the routine is I go to the cupboard to satisfy that, you might say, you know what, first I'm gonna open my journal. Like we talked about in step 3. First I'm gonna open my journal, and if we're journaling how we feel after this, the rest will take care of itself. So you just change the routine, and then the reward will come as far as overcoming that, but then the reward will also come as, okay, I'm gonna find another way to escape or to de-stress or whatnot. So hopefully this is helpful. Those 4 things will be very, very good things that you can implement in your life if you're struggling with sugar. Now again, that's if you have a struggle with sugar. There's nothing inherently wrong with sugar. So you can also live, I guess step 5 would be to live in harmony with it. That's really cool. So I'm able to do, big, sugary, delicious, whatever it is, Toll House or whatever, and fit it into the plan with great satisfaction. But there are some individuals where avoidance is going to be the best option for them. But if it's not quite there yet, then just fit it into your weekly or fit it into your boundaries. Enjoy it. Make sure you eat high micronutrient dense foods before enjoying that, and rock and roll. All right, have a good one.